I was supposed to marry Ananya that day. Everything was set, the hall lit with warm lights, garlands draped over every column, the smell of jasmine thick in the air. People had flown in from all over. Every seat was filled. Every eye was on me. And yet, the one person I needed wasn't there. At first I told myself she was late. Ananya always ran behind schedule. Maybe she was adjusting her makeup, or fixing her blouse. But deep down, something twisted in my chest, cold and sharp. I kept asking if anyone had seen her. No one gave me a straight answer. Ariev, my twin, avoided eye contact. My mother kept telling me to look strong and stand by the altar. But I couldn't ignore the pit forming in my stomach. And then the doors opened. She walked in dressed like a dream, but not toward me. Her hand slipped into Ariev's. They laughed. He kissed her forehead, like I never existed. My legs buckled. I didn't even remember sitting down. The room blurred, faces turned, but no one stopped it. Not my mother. Not even God. I asked, voice cracking, how long this had been going on. Ariev said, calmly, that it started long before the engagement. Ananya didn't deny it. She just said, I'm sorry. That was it. I walked out alone. I remember the silence when I got home, the untouched cake, the red garlands, my wedding playlist still looping softly on my phone. I sat on the bed, stared at my hands, and finally understood what it meant to be invisible in a room full of people. That night, I didn't try to live. I didn't try to die either. I just stopped, and when I woke up 3 days later, it wasn't the old me breathing. He'd already died at the altar. The hospital ceiling was white. Too white. The kind that doesn't soothe, it blinds. I lay there, the beeping of machines whispering the truth. I had survived. I didn't want to. I didn't ask to. I heard voices outside the curtain. Ananya's soft and strained, calling it a mistake. Ariev, colder. He's too weak. He always was. Then my mother, her voice sharp. He was never enough. That's the truth. Their words sliced cleaner than the pills ever could. I stared at the IV in my arm, and wondered why I was still here. Maybe fate just wanted me to hear them say it. Plain, clear, without masks. Maybe survival was punishment. The nurse, Ria, never asked much, just checked my vitals, gave me space. But she saw something. I could tell. One morning she sat beside me and said, "You don't want to die. You just don't want to hurt anymore." I didn't reply. What could I say that would sound like anything but another excuse? That night, I remembered being 12, standing in the corner at a party, while Ariev took credit for the gift I bought. The girl smiled at him like he was gold. I was invisible then too. I realized something in that bed. I had been second for so long, I forgot what first felt like. When my mother came to visit, she didn't ask if I was okay. She said, "You've embarrassed us, again." I told her she never really loved me, not like Ariev. Her silence said enough. That was the last time I saw her. Ria found me one morning, standing shakily at the window. "You shouldn't be up," she said gently. "I need to feel weight again," I answered. She didn't stop me, just stood nearby. That was the first time I believed I wasn't entirely alone. Something had shifted. I hadn't healed, I hadn't forgiven, but I had changed. The old me cried in silence, the new me burned, and from those ashes I started to rebuild. No one asked where I would go when I left the hospital. Not my family, not my so-called friends, not even Ariev. It was as if I had vanished before I ever woke up. I stepped outside with nothing, no plan, no belongings, not even a destination, just air in my lungs and something burning beneath my skin. I wandered toward familiar streets. Muscle memory led me to the old campus I used to walk through every morning. That's when I saw him. Mr. Kapoor. Older now, but still sharp. He looked at me like he saw a ghost he'd been waiting to meet. He remembered me. "You helped me once. Remember? When I slipped in the library, you walked me to the infirmary." I nodded, surprised anyone remembered anything good about me. He sat me down, fed me, listened without asking for details. And then, just like that, he offered me a job, a place to stay, a quiet warehouse on the edge of the city, and a room upstairs with a creaky bed and peeling walls. It wasn't much, but it was mine. That night, I pulled the hospital wristband from my pocket. I stared at it. Aryan Mehra, suicide risk, and held it to a candle's flame. The plastic melted slowly, curling into black ash. I whispered, "Rest in peace." I wasn't talking about myself. I was saying goodbye to the version of me who thought silence was strength and love was safety. Days turned into weeks. My body grew sore from labor. Lifting, moving, scrubbing. But pain was easier than numbness. Mr. Kapoor never pried, just watched me rebuild myself, piece by broken piece. One evening I asked him, "Why'd you really give me this job?" He looked at me and said, "Because you needed a place to burn without anyone throwing water on you." I smiled, the first real one in months, then let it burn. By the time I was ready to face them again, I wasn't angry, not in the way people expect. I was colder, sharper, controlled. I had learned how to watch without reacting, how to gather without being seen. And so I stalked them, not physically, but digitally. I became the ghost in their machine. Ariev was thriving, publicly anyway. A new title, new awards, all fake smiles and expensive suits. Aria too, branding herself as a life coach, now dripping with hollow affirmations and curated quotes about growth and healing. I watched every post, I read every caption, I studied every move, and then I built a mask of my own. I created a new identity, Rohan Malik, branding strategist, polished, neutral, smart. I followed them, they followed back. Arya even messaged me first. "Have we met before?" I replied, "Not yet." I dropped harmless compliments, subtle engagement, flattery dressed in mystery. She responded, eager for attention. Typical. Meanwhile, I contacted Kabir, my oldest friend, the one who disappeared after the wedding. When he came back into my life, he brought receipts, emails, audio, the truth. He showed me the messages between Ariev and Arya, cold, strategic, calculated. "She said you were too soft to fight back," Kabir told me. I didn't speak. I didn't need to. Rage had no place in me anymore. It had matured into something more lethal. Focus. I found Jia next. She had always been there, always watching. I messaged her under Rohan's name. She replied too fast. Curious. Guilty. "She used you," she admitted in one chat, "to make Ariev jealous." I asked her to meet me. When we finally sat across from each other, she couldn't look me in the eye. "She never loved you," she said. "She loved the way you made her look." That moment didn't break me. It finished the final carving. I wasn't the victim anymore. I was the witness, and I was ready for them to see what they created, without me having to say a single word. I was tightening bolts at the warehouse, when a voice I hadn't heard in months echoed behind me. "You still fix things the hard way, huh?" I turned, tools still in hand, and there he was, Kabir, a little older, eyes guilt-heavy, like he'd been carrying something for too long. "You disappeared," I said. "I didn't know how to face you," he replied. "You collapsed in front of everyone, and I ran." I wanted to hate him for that, but I understood it. People vanish when pain gets real. "You could have at least said goodbye." He nodded. "I know, that's why I'm here now, to tell you something that changes everything." We sat on the edge of a crate in silence before he handed me a USB drive. "I didn't plan to dig into Ariev's mess," he said, "but I was helping him clean out a shared folder on the cloud. I found emails, recordings, from Amanya. I didn't speak. I waited. She planned it," Kabir continued. "The betrayal, your collapse. She called it strategic detachment. Said you were too easy to control, that you'd break silently." He paused. "And Ariev," he encouraged it, "said once you were out of the way, everything would fall into place for them." I stared at the drive in my hand, cold, small, but heavier than anything I'd ever held. "They didn't just betray me," I whispered. "They erased me." "No," Kabir said. "You're still here." That's what they didn't expect. We sat for a long time, the quiet louder than any rage. Later that night, I played the audio. Anya's voice? He's too good. That's the problem. Too trusting. Too soft. I need someone sharper. Iriav. He'll vanish. He always does. Let him. I didn't feel broken. I felt ready. While the world outside kept spinning in its usual blur, Ria kept showing up like gravity. Quiet, grounding, unshaken. She never asked where I went at night. She never asked why I had a burner phone, why my eyes always looked 10 seconds ahead of the moment. Instead, she asked if I wanted tea, if I was eating, if I had slept more than 3 hours. One evening, as the sun fell into the sea like a secret, she sat next to me on the porch and said, "I see how hard you're trying not to feel." I didn't deny it. She looked at me. "You think revenge will make it stop hurting? I think it'll make them understand what they did." "And what will you do after they understand?" That question stayed with me long after she went inside. The next day she asked me to come with her to a clinic she volunteered at. Just for a few hours, she said. No expectations. I agreed. At the clinic I handed out files, organized supplies, watched children laugh, despite broken limbs and bruised lives. That night, back at home I sat across from her and said, I forgot what it felt like to be useful without hurting someone. She smiled softly. That's because you stopped letting yourself be human. Her words landed somewhere deep, between the ache of betrayal and the silence I'd been hiding in. Why are you still here? I asked her. Because I don't need you to be fixed, she said. I just need you to keep choosing the light, even if it's faint. I stared at her. No mask, no strategy. For the first time since everything broke, I saw someone looking at me without expectation, and I let myself be seen. I leaked it all. The tax records, the falsified contracts, the shell accounts buried under layers of corporate fog. Every file Kabir helped me uncover. Every thread that unraveled Aryav's perfect image. I let them loose, anonymously, quietly, without theatrics. The headlines came faster than I expected. Stratosphere COO under investigation. Ex-partner speaks out, manipulated and silenced. And just like that, the cracks in Aryav's empire started to show. But even as the media storm grew, I felt nothing. No rush, no satisfaction. Just a quiet, empty kind of power. Then came Naina. She reached out after one of the leaks. Said she'd been watching it unfold. Said she had something more. He gaslit me, she wrote. Told me I was paranoid, that I imagined things. But I wasn't the only one. She went public with her truth. A live video, her voice shaking but steady. I stayed silent for 3 years. Not anymore. I watched the views climb. Watched Aryav's name trend. Not for his brilliance, but for his lies. Sponsors pulled out. His position was temporarily suspended. Whatever mask he wore finally cracked. But even then, I didn't feel peace. Just stillness. Like the aftermath of an earthquake, where nothing quite feels real. And then my phone buzzed. Gia. I need to talk. I know what she did. I met her that night at the tea stall near our old college. She looked smaller, less composed than I remembered. No makeup. No mask. She planned it all, Gia said without hesitation. She wanted to humiliate you. She said it would free her image from yours. Those were her exact words. I stared at her. She knew you wouldn't fight back, that you'd disappear quietly. I didn't flinch. I already knew. But hearing it from someone who once watched it all happen hit differently. She used your silence as permission. I asked her why she was telling me now. Because you never became what they said you would. You didn't vanish. You rebuilt. And it made me realize I was wrong to ever stay quiet. She handed me a flash drive. She recorded herself. You need to hear it. I took it, stood up, and walked away without another word. Some truths are too heavy for thank yous. I played the recording alone. Ananya's voice filled the room, too calm to be casual. I don't love him. I never did. He looks at me like I'm some sacred thing. But I'm not. I need someone who makes me feel powerful, not pure. With Aryav, I feel in control. With Ariane, I feel exposed. I didn't cry. I didn't rage. I just let the words etch themselves across the last part of me that still believed it might have been a mistake. Gia met me again. A few days later. She envied you, she said, wrapping her fingers around her coffee cup. You were too kind. Too clean. She couldn't understand how someone like you existed. So, she tried to destroy it. She didn't destroy me, I replied. She revealed me. Gia nodded. I should have said something before. You didn't, I said. And you were part of it. I know. She pulled out a crumpled note. I found this in her drawer the week of the wedding. It was a draft of a letter to Aryav. Ananya wrote, he's too soft, too safe. I want the fire, not the calm. I want to be desired, not adored. I folded the letter slowly, methodically, like I was sealing a coffin. She never wanted me, I said. She wanted what I made her feel. Gia looked up. And now she gets to feel what I became without her. I left before she could respond. That night, I lit another match, held the letter to the flame, watched it curl, blacken and vanish. In the silence that followed I realized something. I didn't need revenge anymore. I just needed to be seen. Not by them. By myself. I didn't send an invite. I didn't warn anyone. I simply walked into Aryav's product launch wearing confidence like armor. The venue was all glass and steel, clean lines, curated smiles, artificial charm. He stood at the front, microphone in hand, every inch the polished public figure he'd spent years trying to become. The cameras loved him, but when I entered everything changed. People turned. Conversations paused. Whispers circled the room like wind through dry leaves. Is that him? I thought he vanished. After everything, he just walked in. I didn't say a word. I didn't need to. Aryav faltered mid-sentence when our eyes met. It was quick, just a flicker in his tone, a momentary tremble in his hand. But I saw it. I saw the panic beneath the polish. Ananya sat in the front row, her posture picture perfect. But when she noticed me, her face went pale. Her eyes didn't widen in shock. No, they sank in quiet horror. She knew. She had always known this day would come. Just not like this. I held her gaze for a heartbeat. No expression, no hatred, no apology, just presence. Then I walked forward. Slowly, calmly, through the middle of that crowd, past the stage, past the cameras, past everything they had tried to bury me beneath. And I kept walking straight out the exit, past the fake lights, past the noise, into the air that finally felt like mine again. Not a single word spoken, and yet the silence screamed everything. Outside, Kabir met me at the curb. You didn't say a thing, he said. I didn't have to. He smiled. You looked like peace wearing a war suit. I nodded. Let them hear it in the quiet. As I stepped into the car, I looked back once, just once, and saw their world begin to crumble in slow motion. That moment wasn't about revenge. It was about return. And I had finally arrived. Now I live by the sea, not because the ocean erases things, but because it reminds me that even when the tides rage, they always return to stillness. I wake to the sound of waves, and the scent of salt. Ria is beside me most mornings, humming to herself as she pours tea. She doesn't ask for explanations. She just exists in the quiet with me, and that's more than enough. I write now, not stories about pain or revenge, but about healing, about beginnings, about the spaces between endings and what comes after. People read them. Some send messages. They say the stories make them feel seen. Funny, isn't it? I had to be erased to be found. Sometimes I still hear him, my old self, the version of me that begged to be loved, that mistook silence for strength and devotion for destiny. He whispers sometimes, usually when I'm alone, but now, I whisper back, it's okay, I've got this. Today I wrote him a final letter, folded it carefully, walked it down to the fire pit Ria and I built last fall, struck a single match. The letter burned slow, the words turned to ash, but the meaning lingered. You died on your wedding day, but not in vain. The life they tried to steal is mine again, and this time I choose who stays in it. Ria found me sitting on the porch afterward. Did it help? She asked. I nodded. He's free now. She leaned against my shoulder. And you? I smiled. I'm not just surviving anymore. I'm living. We watched the sky together, the sun sinking gently over the water. No storm, no shadows, just stillness. Ria whispered, what do you think the future looks like? I looked at her. Quiet. Real. Chosen. She grinned. Sounds perfect. And it was. Not perfect in the way stories usually end. Perfect in the way scars stop hurting. Perfect in the way silence, once feared, becomes a song you choose to sing.